Hello and welcome to Stage Perspective. My name is Charles Peters, and our very special guest today is my good friend Eric Poppick. Hello, Eric.
Hello, Charles. How
It's
are you?
I'm good. I'm good. It's good to see you. You are coming to us all the way from you're up in Oregon now. So yeah,
I am. I
yeah. I didn't
moved
mean to
to,
disclose your location.
that's fully acceptable. Marilyn and I moved here. It's going to be 4 years at the end of this month.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I assume you are enjoying it. I've seen some of the photos from your surrounding area, and it just looks beautiful. So it's great.
It is beautiful. We live in Medford, Oregon, which is just 10 miles from Ashland, Oregon, where
Hmm.
the Ashland Shakespeare Festival resides.
Right.
And so we have theater in the community.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's great. Well, I wanted to have you on for so long. This whole thing started with me basically because I was looking around a room and I realized, oh my goodness, I pretty much have worked with every person in this room. There's like 30 people in the room in some capacity. I've done some project. And so that was sort of my starting basis was to start interviewing or just talking to people because everybody has, especially you have like a wealth, a body of work that's amazing. But I mean, everybody's got their own story, and I love to hear like how people got started and that sort of thing. So I know you and I worked together. I was trying to remember. I guess the first time we actually worked together, I don't remember if it was on a reading or if it actually was Sunset Park. And I can't remember. I know that we did several readings together.
We did do several readings, and yes, I directed you in Sunset Park, and I
Yeah.
know I've directed you in other shows as well.
Oh yeah, we did Skin Deep, and
Yes,
I think there was something else I don't remember, but yeah, it's all a blur now. But anyway, that's how you and I know each other. I know we did a couple of readings together uh, at the Jewish Center and La Jolla. I think you did one with at the La Jolla Playhouse or something. I don't know, but we've done readings together. Um,
yes,
but you have been in theater a long time, but you've also been in film. I mean, you've appeared in film and television. You've appeared on like and worked with some of my favorite television shows. I mean, you were in Columbo and on and on and on, and you worked with some great directors yeah. And I mean, I know you worked on a couple of daytime dramas, soap operas as they call them. So yeah, it's pretty impressive. So yeah.
well, thank you. Yes, I've been very fortunate to work pretty steadily as an actor over the years. Um, Plus, I studied theater at Boston
Mhm.
University. I have a BFA from BU and also an MA in directing from SUNY Albany.
Mhm.
And so I have that part of my life as well. I've
Yeah.
taught theater as well
Yeah.
before I started working, moving to Los Angeles and working in film and television.
Yeah. Now you were born in California, right?
No,
You weren't born in
no,
California. Oh, okay. You were
no.
born in New York? Oh, okay.
I was actually born in Denver, Colorado.
Oh,
My
okay.
father was in the Army and stationed in Denver.
Yeah.
And I was born there, and then we moved back to New York. I lived in New York as a child and grew up uh, in New Jersey and New York.
Right.
And fortunately, my parents loved to go to the theater, and so we would see a lot of Broadway shows, and that helped add to my love of theater and
Hmm.
acting.
Yeah. Do you have a particular show that like stuck with you, like when you were young, that you saw and you went, wow, and that you've never forgotten?
Yes, I saw the original production of My Fair Lady,
Oh my gosh. Wow.
and with Rex Harrison. And,
Hmm.
and watching that show, I thought to myself, wow, I could do that. I
Yeah.
could do that.
Yeah.
I don't know if I ever will, but it's something that I would love to do. And there it went.
There's the stages of actors where you see it and you go, I could do that. And then I could do that better. I don't know if we can do better than Rex Harrison. Did you see Julie Andrews, or did you see? I know there were a number of people played that role, but
There were a number of people. She wasn't in the
okay,
performance that I saw,
yeah. But
but I saw him.
how exciting to see Rex Harrison on stage in My Fair Lady. So, yeah, that's great. And so is that what sort of got the bug as you went, oh, I kind of want to do this, and you started kind of the normal thing of exploring and starting to try and get into shows?
You know what? My excuse me, my family will tell you that I was always the actor.
Yeah.
The events, I was always fooling around, and I would be in plays in school, grammar school, high school,
Yeah.
and I applied to Boston University as a theater major. I think my parents were surprised that I got in, and delighted that I was going to go to college and pursue something that I loved, and it all worked out.
Yeah, it did. And that's great because not everybody has that support, they sometimes they don't. They have no, what you have to be a doctor, or you need to go to this school, or that kind of thing. So were they supportive of your, sounds like it, they were supportive of your dream.
Well, they were supportive of my dream, and fortunately, actually, my father was a doctor,
Hmm.
and I had an older brother who's not with us any longer, but he went to pre-med, so
Hmm.
that took care of that.
Right.
And then I was next, and I could pursue what I wanted to do.
Right.
And it's a good thing because I don't think I could have made a good doctor. I played them on TV, but
Yes.
not in real life.
Right. Yeah, you played a doctor on one of the soaps you were on, right? Like I
Yes.
think I read that. Yeah. So um that's fascinating. Yeah, your brother got it out of the way, got it out of their system, so you were free. I can do whatever I want. That's great. So at some point, you did you do a lot of the New York auditions and try to go out and do that? When you were living
I
there,
did.
obviously. Yeah.
When you know, I lived in New York for a number of years. I actually taught to earn a living while I was auditioning, and eventually I started booking shows. I did off Broadway. I
Wow.
was never on Broadway,
Hmm.
but I auditioned for Broadway shows.
Yeah.
In fact, I auditioned for the original production of Sunshine Boys,
Oh, wow.
and Neil Simon was in the audience when I auditioned.
Hmm.
Somehow he decided not to cast me, but that's okay.
That's all right. It's okay. I hear he's hard to work for anyway. So
That's right.
somebody told me about Peter Coyote doing a new play at the Globe, and every night was like 12 pages of notes. I don't know if you knew Tom Hammer. He was the prop person at the Globe, and he was good friends
No,
with
I didn't
Charlie.
know.
Anyway, and he was he said Peter Coyote was just like kicking the walls every night. They do rehearsal, they do dress rehearsal, and here would come Neil Simon. He had like 12 pages corrections. He's like, leave me alone. So yeah, that's great. Yeah. Uh, so you must have worked with some people in that have now gone on to bigger and greater things, and like celebrities, I guess is my point. Did you work with anybody famous? Can you name drop?
Well, I did a Seinfeld, and I worked with Jerry,
Right.
and I worked with Dustin Hoffman in a film
Yeah.
called Hero.
Hmm.
Um,
I love that film. I think it's great. That's a fun film.
well, I was fortunate to be in that. Let me see here if I took some notes.
I was thinking about New York too. I mean, like on stage on Broadway, or off Broadway, did you work with anybody in that capacity, or?
No, I did a couple of off-Broadway shows, but
Yeah.
well, actually, now that you mention it, I did an off-Broadway show, and I have to think of his name.
Hmm.
He was the professor in the movie Back to the Future. Help
Oh,
me
you knew
here.
Christopher Lloyd?
Christopher Lloyd. I
Yeah.
did a show with Christopher Lloyd
Oh, nice.
off Broadway before he was a major star.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he was fun to
Interesting.
work with.
Yeah. I can imagine. It was probably like around or pre-Taxi days or something. So, because I
Yes,
guess Taxi was like his first break. So,
right.
very cool. Yeah. That's great. Um, what made you, what prompted the move to, uh, this is a two-part question. What was New
Yes.
York like back in those days? Was it, I know that, we think of New York and we have the tendency to think of Broadway. A lot of people don't realize like there's a lot of television and a lot of film in New York, and you can stay in New York and do that. But obviously, the film industry, the hub is really Los Angeles. What prompted that move, and what was your experience like in New York as you decided, oh, I would like to get into film and TV, and then what prompted your move to Los Angeles?
Well, I was working, teaching and working as an actor in New York, and I applied for an associate professor position at a college in Pennsylvania, and I got the job.
Hmm.
And the college is called Mansfield. Right now, it's called Mansfield University. At the time, it was Mansfield State,
Mhm.
and I was part of the theater department there. But it was cold. It was cold and bitter and wintry for
Where
much
was
of
this
the
in
year.
Pennsylvania? Where in Pennsylvania?
Mansfield,
Oh, I don't know where that is.
Pennsylvania.
I've been
Well,
in I've
I
been in
used to say
Pittsburgh.
it's 4 hours from nowhere.
Right.
Um, I'm not trying to insult those of Mansfield. I'm sorry, but it's just in the middle of the state,
Right.
and it's beautiful countryside, but
Yeah.
the winters are brutal.
Right.
And at the time, I had a friend who was in Los Angeles who kept contact with me and kept saying, "You should come out to Los Angeles, come out, see it." So I went out on a vacation to Los Angeles and fell in love with it and thought, I think it's time for a change. And so off I went. And as I got to know LA, I started running into people that I knew from New York, other actors, and a casting person. And fortunately, she helped me move along in my career, and I started booking jobs. And besides doing film and television, I made a lot of commercials uh, in the
Yeah.
80s and 90s.
Yeah. Which
And boy,
is
they paid the bills, I'll tell
that's
you.
the bread and butter. Yeah.
Yes.
So it's
Yeah.
like I remember reading it's like unless you're going to do commercials, just cut your income in almost more than in half. So when you're starting out. So yeah, that's great. Uh, do you remember your first television gig or film gig?
Um, well, I did a TV movie, and it's not on my resume anymore because it
Hmm.
was many years ago.
It's all right.
Disaster on the Coastliner.
Oh, okay.
Disaster on the Coastliner. And that was the first TV movie that I got.
Yeah.
And I was delighted. I was, in seventh heaven.
Oh, yeah. I can imagine. Yeah. It's like I've
Lloyd
arrived.
Bridges was in it. And when I got to the set and saw Lloyd Bridges, I thought, oh my God, I'm going to be working with Lloyd Bridges? How can this be?
I know. It's crazy. I've had that happen where I like did a film with Robert Loggia, and it was just like, you know, you have to really contain yourself because
I know.
I'm not
I
supposed
did
to
a film
react
with
to you,
Robert. Yes, I,
So
I
yeah,
was in a film with Robert Loggia as
yeah,
well. And
yeah,
so, I found the more I worked, the more I had to calm myself and just
hmm
know they're just folks. They're
yeah,
just-
yeah, yeah. Uh, that's really cool. And so you just continued to do film and television, and I mean, I looked over your IMDb, and it's very impressive. So,
Thank
do you
you.
have a
Thank you.
favorite film that you did um, during that period? I mean, or just in your body of work that you really enjoyed, a director or a film that you really had a wonderful time on?
Well, I had a wonderful time on Hero with Dustin Hoffman. I worked on
Yeah,
that for a few weeks. Um, I also, let me see here.
I know a lot of times, actors, they go on and it's like a couple of days and you're gone. So you don't really get that experience of camaraderie of being on the set. So that's wonderful. You were on the set for, a few weeks
Well,
shooting.
I did Mouse Hunt
Yes.
with Nathan Lane,
Yeah.
and he was fun to work with, and I was
Yeah.
on that set for a while. And also Basic Instinct
Yeah.
uh, with Michael Douglas.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So lots of fun. Yeah.
Yeah. That's great. That's great. So when you made the transition from, because you started out in theater
Yes.
and did you do any kind of did you do film work and television work in New York at all, or get training, or did you just sort of like go? I mean, how did you translate yourself from theater to film? So,
When again, I was a young man at this point, and
mm,
I was in an off-Broadway show, and the director was a stage manager on The Secret Storm,
mm,
and he uh, was able to get me in to audition for a role on The Secret Storm, and that was my first TV job in New York. And I did a couple of commercials in New York as well, but mostly theater.
yeah,
So I really didn't start doing most of my film and television until I moved to Los.
yeah. So, so you learned on the fly, essentially. Yeah.
Kind of, yeah, yeah.
Do you
Because
learn?
when I was
Oh, go
when I
ahead.
was at BU taking acting classes in theater, we didn't really take classes to work on film, and I really had to adjust because behavior on film is different than behavior on stage, as you
Hmm.
know.
Yeah, yeah. I was very fortunate because I don't know if you remember Adam Roark. He was a he was a big star in the 50s and in some of the 60s. This is Dirty Larry and Crazy Mary. That's probably one of the bigger films. Not a big film, but it was a popular film at the time. And those are the kind of films he did. He's in The Stuntman and so forth. He used to hang around with like Dean Stockwell and uh, Dennis Hopper and Peter Fonda, the four of them. He was the
Okay.
lesser known of the four. I turned to him one day and said, "What happened to you?" He was like, "Drugs." So it's like, that's what happened. So he got overtaken by drugs. He was turning down roles because he was partying. So that's why he's not as well known. But I was fortunate to take film acting with him. Film technique. And so when I came to LA, I was like, I felt prepped. I felt like, okay, I kind of know what I'm doing. There's a big learning curve, obviously, but yeah, that's interesting. Do you learn by like uh, I mean, this is something I do. I'll watch other actors, we all do. But I mean, did you watch while you're on set? Did you watch like how they did things to sort of pick up tips, or did people share things with you? Or
Yes, I did. I would watch other people work, and it's true. You learn by watching and incorporating.
yeah, yeah,
When I first started making commercials, I would go and in the day now I'm assuming that most submissions are on tape. You tape yourself and submit.
yeah,
Because of COVID, I think that the audition process has changed drastically.
yeah,
But in times past, uh, I would start watching commercials and think, who am I competing with?
mm,
What do they look like?
yeah,
I need to start looking like that guy.
yeah,
And so I would dress along the lines of those who were working in commercials
hmm,
uh, for the audition.
yeah,
And boom, I
yeah,
started booking.
yeah, yeah. That's smart. Yeah, because you have to kind of look and go. That's a really hard thing to do, is to be honest with your physicality and your look and how people perceive you. Uh, I I went into the we were talking earlier about Signet. I went into the audition and there were like four roles that were open, and And they said, well, who are you reading for? And I had looked at all the sides, but I said, I said to them, I go, perspective is a very unique thing. I said, so what would you like to have me read? Because I may see myself as, this guy or this person, and you may not. So anyway, but it ended up being good. But yeah, so you have to take that honest assessment. So that's very interesting. You go, who am I like? Where do I fit in? So, and obviously that worked because you were able to book and do stuff. So, and I think there's a real niche. It's funny how people, you just being able to do that really opens it up, because I think a lot of people want to go a certain way and they stay on that path. And so they don't book and they don't do that. And so just being open and going, tell me, where do I need to be? So yeah, that's great. That's great. Did you ever have a bad experience on a TV show or a thing? You don't have to name names. You don't even have to name the show, but did you have a bad experience where you were like, this is not fun?
Not that I can think of,
Yeah.
honestly, not
Yeah.
not in a show. I
Yeah.
certainly have had awkward, difficult situations on
Yeah.
stage with
Yeah.
directors or other actors
Yeah.
in rehearsal.
Yeah. Even the shows you and I did together, we had difficulties. So
There were some difficulties with some of the actors, yes, but
yes, that happens.
it all
Yeah.
works out.
Right. Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Oh,
When
the things that the audience doesn't know.
Oh, that's so true. That's so true. Now here's the age old question, and I get asked this too much. Is and I don't think there's a real answer for it because it's two different animals, but directing versus acting. Uh, I mean, for me, I think of myself as an actor, and I do enjoy directing, but I really feel like my place is on stage. Um, I don't know how you feel about it. So,
Well, actually, I love them both. I really do. And I will say that as when I'm on stage as an actor, there are moments where I am directing in my head, thinking
yeah,
about why didn't the director suggest such and such to another actor?
right,
And
yeah,
I know that we are not supposed to direct other actors when we're
right,
actors on stage.
yeah,
And so that would be in my head. And but I love directing as well. And now in my life, we go to shows at Ashland Shakespeare Company
hmm,
Festival, and wonderful plays there.
yeah,
They really are very
yeah,
strong. And I saw one the other day, and it was an excellent production. But there was a moment, a choice that obviously the director made that broke the wall for me,
mm,
because I thought, why did she decide to have the actor do this?
mm,
And afterwards, I talked about it with some of the other folks who saw the play with me, and we were all aware of that choice.
huh.
Um, so even when I'm sitting in the audience, I have a tendency to direct in my head.
Yeah, I can't help it. Yeah, because I just I'm like, oh, why are even just down to the set where you go, why is this that should be over there and that should be here because I'm missing all this action that's happened. Oh, drives you crazy. So
Yes.
transitions too, that's the big thing. The transitions, it can
Hmm.
just kill a show. Yeah, so it's hard to turn that off. I do try to go and enjoy shows and just sit and I just want to watch, like especially like film and TV. It's like I just want to watch this. So I used to
Yes.
pick it apart. So that's that's interesting. So you are still continuing to go to theater. And do you have like a dream role that you uh have played or that you want to play or
Well, I've always wanted to play George in Virginia Woolf.
hmm
I've been in Virginia Woolf as the neighbor,
right.
um, and but that's a role that I wish I could play.
Yeah,
But
that's a great
each
role.
year that goes by, as I get a little older, it starts moving further away.
Yeah. Are you I know a lot of older actors. I've even experienced this myself. Because it's the memory. It's
Yes.
oh, this is not as easy as it used to be.
Well, you know what? I'm actually memorizing some lines now. Uh,
Fantastic.
they there is a town near where we live called Jacksonville, Oregon,
Hmm.
and it is gorgeous small town. Uh, its main street was actually used in a Western about 10 years ago
Mm.
because the buildings have all been saved and kept in the style of the 1800s. And it's a lovely place. And they have a cemetery up the hill. And every year they have a production called Meet the Pioneers. And I was asked to be part of that this year. I play one of the pioneers from the 1800s. And what happens is it's kind of similar to Spoon River Anthology, if you know
Hmm.
that show,
Hmm. Yeah.
where the characters talk to the audience about their past. They're all in a
Right.
cemetery.
Right.
Um, anyway, a group of audience members will come to a section of the cemetery and basically walk to these different grave sites. And we, the actors, have about a 10-minute scene that we do talking about events that took place in the 1800s, early
Wow.
1900s. And it's a lovely venue. And I have to memorize lines, my God. So I am in the process of doing that. So I'm still working.
Yeah.
Now,
That's great.
it's just a 10-minute scene. So it's reasonably easy to do.
Yeah.
I haven't had to memorize a full production. Actually, a couple of years ago, there's a theater in town that had a production of Our Town,
Mm.
and I was going to play the stage manager, and which is a huge role, as you
Hmm.
probably know.
Yeah.
And I had my lines, and unfortunately, the weekend we opened was the weekend of COVID,
Yeah. Yeah.
March 13th. It's on
Yeah.
everyone's calendar,
Yeah.
and we were never able to revive the production,
Oh.
which is unfortunate. But I did have my lines then, so
Mm.
people, as you know, Charles, people will say, "How do you learn all those lines?" Um, I don't know. It's what we do, right?
It is what we do. It's part of our job. Uh, yeah.
Yes.
Do you have tricks? I mean, I have little things like I look for like alliteration. I create acronyms with the beginnings of sentences, and also just breaking down like what am I actually saying here, and that helps is like
Yes.
just the subject matter, and any repetition of words. I'll look for how many times do I say this word, and then I'll go, oh, there are 3 times I say this word or say this type of thing, and then I'll remember, oh, I've only done 2, I have one more. So
Yes.
it's never the same. I don't memorize the same each time. So
No,
yeah.
I have tricks as well.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'll remind myself it's the letter C. The letter
Hmm.
C starts that word because I'll
Right.
trip over a word and think
Yeah.
C starts with
Yeah.
C and then it gets in the brain.
Right. Yeah. It's great when it's cued too. Do you want
Right.
coffee? Yes, I'd love some coffee. It's like it's that's easy. I can do that. But I had to do a
Well,
monologue a while back. It was very lovely because the last acting I'd done was Frankie and Johnny, and then it was all this time period. We had COVID, and then Jill came to me and said, "We're going to do this reading," and I said, "Okay, great." And it was a reading. I was like, "Fine." It's a 10-minute monologue about the fires in 2003 here in San Diego.
uh-huh.
There's a bunch of playwrights that had written a bunch of monologues, and we were going to do it. And then they got the Conrad Prebys in La Jolla as their venue, and they went, "We don't want people on book." And so they said, "Can you memorize? We're going to pay you more." But so I was like, "Oh my gosh!" So that was quite a thing to overcome. A lot of people couldn't do it. There were only about 3 or 4 of us that actually memorized everything, which is interesting. So, but yeah,
Well, I
it's
remember,
hard.
Charles, in the shows that I directed you in, you always seem to have your lines in a
Yeah,
reasonably fast
yeah,
manner.
yeah,
You
yeah,
you would be there.
yeah,
I didn't have to worry about you messing up your lines.
yeah. Not generally, not in general. So yeah, I've told you this before, but I love your directing style. Because you just have this. I know you might be internally screaming, but I know that you have a calm way of just, you know, moving through the scene and communicating what you want to communicate and putting it together. And, just it's there's a methodology to it, which is very nice to watch, as opposed to, a lot of directors are very frantic and very, okay, and screaming and stuff, and not necessarily in anger, but just like a lot of frenetic activity. And you have there's a calming presence when you're there. It's like, oh, we got this, so yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, it's very nice. I enjoyed all the productions I was on with you, and it's always a pleasure to like work with you and stuff. And you're very knowledgeable too. You're well traveled. I mean, you know a lot of stuff. You're very smart, which I always say that the best actors are smart actors, not necessarily like being smart in acting, but are intelligent, that they have an intelligence about them. I don't think you can be good and be stupid. So, and do you speak some languages? Because I've heard you speak French, and I know
Oui,
you.
je parle français un peu. Oui. French is the only language that I do speak a bit. I've been to France a number of times, and when I go, try to pick up the language again and try to communicate.
Yeah.
But I also have had a nice ability to deal with accents. In fact, I'm doing a reading besides this show I just told you about. Where I live here on campus, I'm in a retirement community, and we have a group that does readings of plays. We aren't memorizing all the lines because some of the folks here are not willing to do that, but we do readings. And I've done a few of them that I've directed and also been in. And I'm doing a reading next week of The Dumbwaiter.
Oh, yeah.
Harold Pinter, English play. And my partner and I are talking, with a bit of an English accent, dealing with that.
Yeah.
I love accents, and I love playing around.
Yeah.
My partner said to me, who was working with me on this, he said, it always amazes me when an English actor will come to America and have an American accent. And then you'll see them on a talk show and they're English.
Right.
And I say, well, we do the same thing, don't we?
Yeah, we do. We do. Yeah. That's very interesting. I'm so happy to hear that you're like still doing stuff and still acting and getting around and getting out to see theater. That's wonderful. So
yeah.
Is France a favorite place to go?
Absolute.
Is that like a destination all the time? So yeah.
Well, it's not all the time, but I've been a number of times, and Paris is a fabulous city. It's so magnificent to walk that city, and the museums and the art and the culture and the food. I don't know. Forgive me, I'm just a crazy Francophile.
Yeah, I get it. I've never been. I've wanted to go. I will go eventually. So, but
put it on your list.
Yeah,
it's beautiful.
So, that's fantastic. Now, you act. I know that you've also like to take photographs as well. Is that something you're still doing? And because I know that you at one time you came in very proudly and you're like, look, my photo made it into the paper, or you submitted it to a magazine or something, or the World. I don't remember. It was
the Los Angeles Times.
That's what it was.
Published a photograph that I took when I was in France, actually.
Right. Yeah.
Of Mont Blanc, the snowy mountain in Chamonix, France.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I got lucky with a photo and I sent it in. This was in the time when the travel section every Sunday would print a photograph submitted by a reader. And I submitted and they posted it. I was delighted.
Yeah. Yeah. That's wonderful. It's very cool. So, yeah. So it's a different world now. We were talking earlier about submissions and so forth. I mean, things have changed dramatically. Not only even before COVID, things have changed, but now I think with COVID and now, so even theaters are now doing video, digital submissions, which I've had some friends of mine that live in New York that they just absolutely can't stand it because you're losing the energy of the actor and of the room, that everything kind of feeds on everything else. So they're like, you're not getting to know me. You're just seeing me read. And it's difficult, and they're finding it difficult. I think for film, it's been wonderful, or television, it's been really nice because people can submit to things in New York, or be anywhere and submit.
Mhm.
And that's nice because I've had some friends that have gotten some work long distance. But what would you say to somebody that's starting out that wants to break into like film or television, or even get into theater? Like, where should they be? What should they have in their kit to get started?
Well, know who you are.
Hmm.
Know what characters you can play. I was very happy to have studied theater, to study acting when I was young, and to hear perspectives from teachers and eventually directors that I would start working with in college. And the same when I started directing. We're guided. Don't be afraid to listen. And as I mentioned earlier, when I finally went to Los Angeles, a lot of people think, well, I can do this. But there are easily, well, when I was working, there are 15 other actors very similar to Eric Poppick. And that's when I started looking and thinking, how can I be a little different and stand out? Um, I think as a young actor, you have to think about that. And you have to be persistent and be willing to take no, no, no. Because as
Yeah.
you know, we get more no's than yeses.
Yeah.
And when people ask me about my career, I would often compare it to a professional baseball player.
Hmm.
And what I mean by that is a professional baseball player, if he has an average, a hitting average of 300, he's a major player. He's really good. He's wanted by other teams. Well, what does that mean, 300? That means he gets 3 hits out of 10 every time he's at bat.
Yeah.
So 7 times he won't get a hit. But if he can get 3 out of 10 consistently, he is sought after by other teams.
Yeah.
And so I started thinking along those lines of auditions. If I booked 3 jobs out of 10 auditions, I was really happy.
Huh.
And that started to happen.
Wow.
And that's how I made a living.
That's a very
And that's
interesting way to
how,
look at it. Yeah.
yeah. And that's how many actors make a living. Now, certainly some become major stars and they don't have to go down the road of the character actor
Yeah.
like me
Yeah.
to audition constantly. And obviously, once you get a series or become known in films, the audition process eases up.
Hmm. Yeah.
But you have to be willing to take the knocks.
Yeah. But I don't think it ever stops unless you become like really big. I mean, even having success on a television show, unless the show is just so big, it
Right.
you still have to work. I mean, there are people that have been on shows, and it's just like, what are you doing now?
Yeah.
And they still got to go out and do their thing, and they still got somebody else has to. And there's also that danger of, well, you're that guy. We we don't want that guy. We want
Right.
somebody else. You know, we want a so and so type. Well, I am that guy. Yeah, but we don't want you. We want somebody like you. That old joke. So,
It's true.
yeah, it's a rough biz. I love the baseball analogy though. That's really good because you're right. And I always say this to actors because I'm still doing UCSD, still hanging out there, and it's
Yes.
great. And
Good.
I always say it's a numbers game. It's a numbers game. And
Yes.
you just got to keep putting yourself out there, because if you're good, somebody's going to see that eventually. Somebody's going to go, oh yeah, okay. And because it's about trust is a lot of it. I found that to be that's the thing, I think, in the film and TV business, and even in theater, it's a trust thing. Somebody comes in who you have no idea who they are, and you have a guy who's maybe not as good as the other guy. You kind of go, well, I I'm gonna go with the guy I know. I'm not. I mean, I might take a chance on somebody new, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It's rough because people don't like to take chances like that with a production or on TV. Is this guy going to get on the set and embarrass me or embarrass the show? So yeah, it's interesting. It's great. Yeah, like I said, I'm glad to hear you're still doing stuff, and I never had any doubt that you would stay busy. You're relaxing, but I know you weren't unplugging. There was no way you were going to
No.
unplug. I don't think actors do that. I think maybe if you did, it was for a couple of weeks and you went, okay, I can't do this. I've got to do something. So,
Yes.
do you have a
You
favorite
know,
act? Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
just to finish that point, COVID have certainly kicked a lot of us by the
Yeah.
curb,
Yeah.
and unfortunately, that I felt like about a year and a half of
Yeah.
a lot of quiet,
Yeah.
but it's coming back.
Yeah.
Fortunately, it's coming
Yeah.
back.
I was grateful for some of it, but it got to a point where it's like, oh, I really, and income wise, because I'm a gig worker. I mean, I don't have a
Yep.
real gig. So it's like I had so much stuff cancel and go away. And it was like, we were okay. We were much better off than a lot of other people. So that really hurt. But do you have a favorite actor? Like somebody you go, oh, that's, you know, somebody you really admire. I mean, I'm sure you have a lot
Bryan
of people.
Cranston
Yeah.
is very strong. I like what
Hmm.
he does. Um, I always enjoyed Dustin Hoffman
Yeah.
in all the films he made. Uh, there's two for you.
That's two. My only connection with Dustin Hoffman is I did his bar mitzvah, his kid's bar mitzvah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I booked it because I had an agent in LA that would go, he was Bert. He's probably not with us anymore, but he'd always call and go, hey, Charles, what are you doing on Saturday? I got a gig for you. And then he would just give me the last name and tell me where it is. There was not a lot of information. And the last name was Hoffman. I didn't even
Right.
think about it. So I go to the Beverly Hills Hotel and I'm walking down the hall and there's a big security guard standing, goes, can I help you? I'm like, yeah, I'm here for the party. I'm the entertainment. And he goes, what's the name? And I said, and he goes, oh yeah, you're okay. And I didn't even think of it. I walk in, I start seeing Warren Beatty and Mark Rydell and, John Lovick and Lovitz and, all these people. And I'm like, oh, Hoffman. And it hits me suddenly that it's
Oh,
Dustin Hoffman.
that
That
Hoffman.
Hoffman. So I'm like, oh, okay. So yeah, I just never thought about it. Same thing happened when I did Gene Reynolds. I went to Gene Reynolds' house, never hit me. Walked in, there's the big picture of the MASH cast on the wall, and I go, "Oh, Gene Reynolds." So yeah, I
And were you doing magic
was
for
doing
them?
magic. Yeah, so
Uh-huh.
yeah. So it's like yeah, and I didn't actually go into the bar mitzvah. I looked in the room, and it was just like it was at the Beverly Hills Hotel, it was in the giant banquet room, and it was just so over the top. I was just like, oh my gosh, thousands and thousands of dollars. I was just in the reception, but it was great. Mark Rodell
Okay.
really enjoyed what I did. He was like, do that again. So it's fun. So yeah, um, that's great. So you have your Pioneer Days that are coming up, and you have your readings that you're doing. Um,
Yes.
Anything else that's coming up in the future right now?
Not at the moment,
Yeah.
but if I get an idea, I can usually convince someone to do it.
Yeah.
Oh, I will tell you that you know, as I said, I'm living in a community,
Hmm.
and I don't know if you're listening. I'm hearing noise outside. Are you hearing the noise of
I'm
the
not. No.
lawnmower? Good,
No.
good.
No. Yeah. Good
All right.
directional headset there.
Um, we are a community of about 800 or 900 people who live on this campus,
Hmm.
and there are events and things that take place. And there is a woman who lives on campus who is an actress as well. She's done a lot of community theater. She never worked professionally, but she's a good friend. And she and I make these short infomercials for the community.
Oh, wonderful.
And they've become a hit. People keep asking me, when are you going to make more of those? So that's something that keeps me busy as well.
It's like the cruise director coming on and saying, "Okay, today."
Right.
It's great. Yeah, that's very wonderful. Um, so I last little bit of a question, and this is a big question, but tell me a little bit about, and it's I can't even do this, but your process as an actor when you get a role, big or small, like how do you go at it? I know for me it's different each time, like how I attack it.
Well, I would say it's different each time as well.
Hmm.
Um, this character that I'm playing, for example, in the Pioneer days, I did research on, he's a real person. He was a real person. So I did
Yep.
research on who he was. And that tells me that he was a sophisticated man. So my behavior will fall into that line as
Hmm.
opposed to a logger or,
Right.
a country guy.
Hmm.
This man was involved in politics in the town and was president of the first fire engine company in town. Plus, I just went for a costume fitting yesterday. And now that I see what I'm wearing, I have a better sense of who this man is as well.
Yeah.
As opposed to the character I'm playing in The Dumbwaiter,
Yeah.
who is a gangster,
Hmm.
an English lowlife.
Hmm.
And that's going to be a different type of behavior.
Right.
So I watch people who might be similar to characters that I play,
Hmm.
called acting.
Yeah. Exactly. And I think a lot of actors that are have a good mimic in them, there's a lot of mimicry that we do or pull from.
Yes.
So whether it's in direct or indirect, so yeah. I remember playing a character and thinking, this is like Richard Briers. This is like Richard Briers. And then I realized, oh, Richard Briers played this role on stage. No wonder it's like Richard Briers. As I was sort of using him as like an identifying like mindset. I was like, oh yeah. So anyway, interesting. So well, Eric, it has been a pleasure to speak with you and hear about your
Well, thank
journey a
you.
little bit. Do you have any parting words or anything?
Well, I just want to actually give a few shout outs to those producers and directors who hired me over the years I
Yeah.
was in San Diego, like Jill Drexler
Hmm.
and Kathy Brombacher
Yeah.
and Christiane Kerner
Hmm.
and Sean Murray, David Ellenstein. I was fortunate to work at all of their theaters
Yeah.
and always had fun, had a great time.
Yeah.
My years in San Diego were wonderful.
Yeah.
And I don't know what else to say. Thank
Yeah.
you, Charles.
Yeah. I'm grateful that you came to San Diego, obviously. And the other thing is when you came to San Diego, was it an easy transition? I know we were just about to sign off, but I mean, was it an easy transition of like, because you have a body of work behind you and you come from New York and you come from Los Angeles, you have all this work. Did you have a feeling of like starting over when you came here?
A little bit of starting over, but
Yeah.
within the first 6 months of moving, I found the theater community
Yeah.
and I found an agent in town in San
Yeah.
Diego, and I just started auditioning and started working,
Yeah.
fortunately.
The numbers game.
Yep.
Yeah. But and that probably has a trust thing, which is why you take work, because then you build up your resume and people go, oh, okay, well, because otherwise we would be basing everything on just what we see. We have to look at the resume, and that's why we have it to go, oh, well, he worked with so and so, or he did this, and so it's like, oh, okay, he's got to be okay. He's got to have something going
Right.
for him. So, yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Anyway, well, Eric, it was a pleasure. It was
Thank you.
it was so great to speak in. Great to see you, and I wish you luck with the Pioneer Days and the Dumbwaiter and
Thank you.
many and the future productions. And it's great. So yeah. All
And
right.
let's keep in touch.
Absolutely. Well, this has been Stage Perspective. Our special guest, of course, today has been Eric Poppick. And if you like this video, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. You'll see some more videos coming very soon. And there's lots of other things to watch here as well. Thank you. Have a great day.